Yo, what's going on, everybody? I haven't collected my thoughts, so I'm kind of all over the place right now. Just got home, but I know Max wanted people to make a video explaining their ascension journey, where they came from, how they got to this point. So I thought, hey, I got free time right now, and I think it'd be a form of healing for myself. So I'm gonna do that. But I apologize. I haven't even taken my shoes off. I've been running around, but I really want to make this video. I'm kind of in a time constraint, so I'm gonna try to do this as fast but as accurate as I can. So apologize, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well today. Okay, so one thing really quick too is that I don't have a filter. I don't hold things back. I just say the truth. I see how talking about certain things sometimes that people, they think about, but they don't share, maybe from fear of not looking a certain way, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, we all have our own individual stuff that we keep to ourselves, but I like to open up things because it will show people it's okay to talk about stuff, and nothing's perfect. We're not perfect. I got plenty of, I don't know what you call the hidden skeletons, whatever, I got my own crap going on. We all do. So, shed some positivity on the negativity in our lives. How else do you think you're gonna heal it, So just putting that out there, because I may get into some shit. I don't know. So, all right. To do this in a timely fashion. Okay, so basically, I've had these abilities. Well, like the channeling, the telepathy, third eye stuff. Yeah, but you obviously got to work on it. It's not like you're just gonna boom get all this stuff. I mean, everything takes work. Spiritual stuff takes work, and I think that's where a lot of people they don't go wrong, but I had to go through a lot of negativity and a lot of dark times in order to reach this state. I'm not saying that everyone else will, but I literally am like, all or nothing. I'm gonna do this 1,000% into it, go as deep as I can, or I'm not gonna do it at all, basically. So a lot of people, they want these things, but then they don't want to spend the time, or they don't want to, do the isolation. For example, when I was in my hermit stage, I was at a point with money where I didn't have to really work as much, to have that, that income. Like, I was okay, and I also chose to work as little as possible, to not go out, not have any friends, not, you know what I'm saying? Like, I really cut myself off from society. So that's another part of it. I'm not saying people have to go as extreme as I did, but it's like, if you're not willing, if you're truly passionate about this, and this is why you are here, and you are driven for the spiritual stuff, then you got to put in the work, and obviously you're going to be rewarded for it. So I want to put that out there too. A lot of people I'll see or come to me, and they want things, but then I'll tell them how to go about it, and they're like, "Ooh, I don't know if I want to do that." And it's like, everyone's different. You have your own ways, but you can't, pick and choose with some things. Some things you just got to do. So that's really important. But anyway, so since I was little, since I was born, I've always been different. Clearly, you guys can tell I'm a little different. So when I was little, they thought I was autistic. I didn't talk till I was like 2. I don't know. I don't understand these terms. It's just what I've been told my whole life. Failure to thrive, and maybe, I mean, even though I'm not autistic, they thought I was in special ed, schooling up until like kindergarten or first grade. Just a slow learner, late bloomer. They thought I just had a lot of issues, and then it turns out, it's a lot of people who are into the spiritual stuff are connected. They're 3D lives like me. I'm horrible at 3D life. My 3D life is not nearly as good as everyone else, basically. So there's that. So being brought into this life, I already kind of had issues. I kind of already had um some weight that I had to deal with, basically. And when I was little, and this is one thing that I learned, in August, so only a couple months ago, I've always been a channeler. So I had I looked at the world as a very scary thing, because for some reason when I was little, I would get images. I was abducted a whole bunch of times. My parents, up until I think when I was like from 2 to like 5 or 6, a whole bunch of times they would find me at neighbors' houses, in cars, random places in the neighborhood at like 3 in the morning, And that's really weird. It's like, how is a 3-year-old gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like, get out of the house and go into a neighbor's house and go like blocks away and be like, it just doesn't add up, So a lot of weird things have happened. When I was little, I would see ghosts. I would see, just third eye visuals. Really weird things. I would see almost like what you would describe as a saint, like those kind of people, or like religious terms, or when you're at a church and then there's a stained glass art of things, I would see a lot of those beings like outside my window watching me. I would get into weird situations when I was little because there were like beings like influencing me too, but I really didn't understand. And I had a whole bunch of just like, I thought they were nightmares basically, but they weren't. A lot of things were real. And what I'm starting to realize, I'm getting images in the last couple months. It's almost like I'm starting to see the other side of when I was little. I'm starting to see the side that I didn't see. Because, I wasn't developed yet, and obviously a lot of negative beings want to keep you, they don't want you to grow, and they didn't want me to become what I'm becoming, basically. But, the positivity, the light, the love, the spirit, everyone, there's so many more helping positive beings, so it's kind of like, it is true, the light is always going to conquer the dark, in the end, always. So I started seeing a lot of things. Like I said, I would see images of like saints and like Jesus-looking people outside my windows. Dreams of like alien technologies that I didn't understand. And then when I was little, for some reason, and like it's really weird because I ended up really liking it in like down the road. But when I was little, my biggest fear was Chucky, like the Chucky movies, like the original Child's Play. So I would have a lot of and I didn't know it at the time, but I would have a lot of archon energies taking on that form, and I would literally like see it, and it would scare the shit out of me. So I would constantly have these weird, scary Chucky dreams, and I would think they were nightmares, but they really weren't. What else? And then like when I was little, I thought, and I still to this day think it looks creepy, but I'm not afraid of it. Like the old clay animation, like Frosty the Snowman, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the little drummer boy. It was a drummer boy in particular, and I still get this weird, like right now I get this weird vibe. Beings would take on like the little drummer boy, like the clay animation. I think it looks just freaky a little bit. A lot of old stuff's kind of creepy. But they would use those images, and they'd scare the shit out of me basically when I was little. And I would like sleepwalk, and I would also astral project and not know it. So I remember going downstairs and seeing all these beings, and then like waking up in my bed. So basically the manipulation was strong when I was little, because when you're little, you're not aware. And obviously my parents aren't going to understand. They still don't understand this stuff, which is okay. It's fine. But basically I saw the world. I was living in a different world in a way. Like I could see the lower astral basically all the time, but I didn't know it. So I just was terrified of living a lot of the time. So I had a lot of issues, and I kept all this in, probably until like I was like 22 or something like that, only like 4 years ago, crazy stuff. So for some reason though, I've always, even when I was little, I always was drawn to church and the pictures and angels and God, and even though I'm not religious now, I see that positive influence was always there. I was always supported. And I don't know of many other people who at the age of like 10 years old would sit up all night. I'm talking like 8 hours, 10 hours, and just talk to God, just talk to Jesus and spirits. And a lot of the times it was me just scared and unhappy and crying and wanting to not be here, or asking for Cause I was a kid, you can't blame me. Or asking for like Spider-Man and like Batman, and like abilities, or I don't know. I basically kind of felt alone, almost like I was dropped in a world where I know I'm a little different. And when I was a kid, I was in special ed classes, so I kind of just grew up being different. People were not the nicest to me, obviously, when you're in. And that's why I'm very defensive against people with disabilities, because even though I don't have those disabilities, I went through a lot of the ridicule and being with them and seeing how people look at you different, and so that's why in high school I was very defensive. And it was really cool. A couple people, like teachers, actually came up to my friend and I in high school, and they're like, "Hey, we want to know if we can sit the special ed kids at your table, because we see that we see that you would stand up for them and you'd kind of be a protector." And so I had these kids at my lunch table, and I was very defensive. I wouldn't let anyone mess with them, and I very just open and loving, to anybody and everything, because I've been there. I've been at the point where it's not good. I've been at the point where you're kind of singled out and you can't really relate to anybody, So, moving on, when I was about 12 years old, and nowadays it shows that, like, even though my brother doesn't connect to this stuff, when I was 12 and my brother was 14, he taught me how to astral project, and we would astral project, and wow, okay, I'm getting a really sharp ringing in my ear. Oh, that's interesting. That's a sign. So I think I need to talk about this. I need to get some things out. So my brother and I would astral project, and then like he would do it, and then he would, I'd look to see if he was asleep, and he would be. And I lived, in a different room later on. I was like the basement person, and he lived upstairs. And then so my brother would tell me about, I remember when he would be asleep, but then he would tell me the next day about what I was doing in my room at the time when he was asleep. And like my brother just, somehow he's really connected, but like Ivan told me, Ivan did a reading on my brother, and he was like, yeah, he was connected, and something scared him to not connect to this stuff anymore. So it's just not really his place here. But not we're all spiritually connected. We all... You know what I'm saying? We all go through the same stuff, but not everyone is. It's not in their mission to remember and to know, and that's okay, and that's fine, So like I don't really bother him with this stuff, but I think that's and that's the thing. When I was little, I didn't look at these things as weird or different. To me, it was just natural. So looking back, it's like, wow, I don't see a lot of other 12-year-olds, you know what I'm saying, like astral projecting and going to different dimensions and talking about it with their brother. That's a little weird. That's a little weird. And then so that happened, and then in the house in Aurora, I live in Aurora now, but I lived at a couple places in Aurora. So like my home that I grew up at when I was younger, my brother and I both at different times saw this ghost being, and he saw her but didn't tell me because he was the older brother. He didn't want to scare me. And then I saw her like 2 days later, and I told him about it, and he just had this pale, scared face. He was like, I saw the same thing. I just wasn't going to tell you because you're my little brother, watch out for you. So I've always been connected, basically. And then I, like most people, as a teenager, was a troublemaker. I got into trouble. I hung out with the wrong groups. I did, not horrible things, but I did bad things, and I kind of started going on a path of, like, destruction. I've always been, like, physical. I know this isn't spiritual, but, I was always into sports, always active. Like, to this day, I try to run 35 to 40 miles, a week, and I lost 150 pounds. Went from almost 400 pounds, and now I'm like 215, 210, something like that. But basically, once high school hit, I started just not doing sports, hanging out with bad people, getting depressed. My fixation was, always having a girlfriend and women and all that stuff. For 8 years straight, I was in relationships. I did not focus on myself. And I was going down a path that was not good. So all my abilities and things just completely turned off. I almost went from connecting to it to a point where it was like, I'm just not going to connect to this stuff. It was bringing back bad feelings, and I kind of just blacked it out, just put it back in the subconscious or whatever, and just I couldn't deal with it. So when I was 17, my parents decided enough was enough. This is not a good place. I mean, Aurora is pretty ghetto. It's definitely one of the ghettoer sides. That's not too far from Chicago. But anyway, so I moved out of here, which was very good, even though I didn't realize it at the time. I moved when I was 17 from Aurora to Wheaton, Illinois, and Wheaton is a conservative, Christian, Bible-thumping little place, completely different. But I got away from a lot of stuff, and then so when I moved, I lost all my friends, and I've always had friends, always. And I've always been friends with everybody, not just one particular group. Like how in high school people had the cliques and the groups. I would be friends with all the cliques. I'd be friends with the people who made fun of the other people. You know what I'm saying? Like the jocks and the nerds or the badass, just whatever. I was friends with everybody, always. So I moved to Wheaton. I was very lonely. I didn't have any friends. And I kind of was just on a path of just being depressed, not knowing who I was, almost like a midlife crisis, but at the age of 17. And I was just a mess. That's when I gained a whole bunch of weight. I was eating, I don't eat fast food anymore, don't drink any pop, none of that stuff. And I was just eating fast food all the time, and, I'm going to be honest, I was smoking a whole bunch of weed and doing other things, and just really not healthy. And I kind of lost myself. But you have to lose yourself to find yourself. And yeah, Michelle, I was just talking to her about that 10 minutes ago, so that's really funny. So I lived in Wheaton for about about 5 or 6 years. And then once I got out of high school, I graduated high school, and I started going to college. College I absolutely love. I completely hated high school, was not happy, was dreading it all the time. My last few months of high school, I ended up being homeschooled because I just couldn't take it anymore. I was just on a path of, and I'm being honest, I literally was I don't think I'm going to make it out. I don't think I'm going to live another couple of years. I just didn't care about life at all. I was at my lowest point I can be. And then so college came, and college is amazing. I absolutely love college. Just the freedom, I think that's really what it is. It's the freedom and you're there to learn what you want to learn. There's a difference between school and education, and I think high school and all that is school, and college is real education. But anyways, so in 2012, that's when I really started awakening a lot, because I started connecting to Gaia. I started connecting to the sun and the moon even more. Oh yeah, and when I was little, I was completely terrified. Okay, I'm getting that ringing again. I was completely terrified of the moon, and I actually found out it's because I've been there. I've been to Mars. I've been to Neptune a lot recently. I think I'm gonna do a channeling on the planet Neptune, not any Poseidon being, but the planet speaking to me. And it's been a couple days now, but I haven't had time to do a channeling, so it's gonna be tonight or tomorrow for sure. That's how my channeling is. I'll get into a meditation, or they'll just contact me. So I do kind of already have a feel of what I'm going to talk about, but I don't fully go into it until I, go into the state of channeling. And a little information for you guys who do watch my videos. you can tell when I'm really in my deep trance because like I've gone back to watch some like the videos I don't remember, and the ones I don't remember, it's always when you can see like my eyes are kind of open, like I'm looking but my eyes are closed. You can just tell I'm gone. So that's something I learned in the last couple of days. But I was afraid of the moon because when I was younger, I was abducted by a lot of Zetas, reptilians, and this is something I've been dealing with a lot recently. I'm going to be honest, I've been drinking a lot more beer than I should have just because it's been hard to deal with it. It's almost like I said, going back and seeing the other perspective of all the things that I basically shut out of my mind because I couldn't take it, because I didn't understand. So now I'm seeing the other side, and it's really hard. I've been having a lot of images lately of when I was little, waking up on ships, not wanting to be there, and it's sad. It really is almost like the reptilians were my handlers in a way. But the Zeta reptilians, and they're completely different than the others. My mom actually called me over to her house a couple weeks ago to do a clearing because things were being moved, scratches around the walls, and she just moved into a brand new place that like no one's lived at before. Garage door kept opening up, and I kept seeing grays, and then so I had a reading done, and they were not happy with me finding out about, them manipulating my past, because now I know I'm not going to let them do that to me anymore. So that's something recently I've been seeing. There's been a lot of manipulation on me that I didn't realize, but now I'm starting to. And the manipulating energies are giving up on me. I mean, thank God, because it's kind of like they can't keep doing this to me because I'm not going to let them. So that's something that I've been dealing with. I kind of haven't been as 100% because it's hard, It's almost like I've never had PTSD, but it almost reminds me of PTSD in a way, It's not easy to do that, but part of me that's really good is, like I said, I'm honest, I'm open. There's some things people wouldn't share, and I'm gonna share them because I know you guys have gone through the same stuff. So it actually is healing. Me opening up on myself is going to heal others. Because like I did a channeling recently, and I went back and watched it, and I learned, I think it was Augustus, I forgot who, either Augustus or Archangel Gabriel. But they were talking about how when you heal and you do something for yourself individually, you are healing the whole in a way, like a certain aspect of the whole. So I think me doing this and being as open as I can is basically going to help somebody out there, Even if it's one person, to me, that's perfect. That's fine. Because I'm not doing this for money. I'm not doing this to be in a group and to raise, promotion and none of that stuff, I think that's why a lot of people come to me now, because I don't have an agenda, basically. Anyways, so in 2012... is when I started awakening a lot, connecting to Gaia. I would be outside, just crying, talking to her, and I remember when and I think I recorded this in a video recently. There was a special night where I saw it looked like a ghost, but it was like a being going down the street really fast. And then for some reason, it was like an energy shift in me. I don't know where I started feeling Gaia more, but I was talking to her and I started crying. And as soon as I started crying, the wind picked up and she was wiping the tears off my face, And I would get a lot, and then I started getting images, and I've always thought that I didn't know intuition was linked to spirituality, but I always thought, I'm very intuitive. And I always thought I had a huge imagination. Like, I thought I had basically a disorder. I was like, I'm too creative. And one thing, and I don't know why, but this is coming to me. One thing I've always done, like when I'm driving, I see this sometimes. I always feel like, take what you see, take the world, and then there's all the lower 3D stuff, cars, people, jobs, the slave work, money, norms, pressures, all this stuff. And then there's the sky and the beyond and everything. And I'd always feel like I'm up here and everyone's down here. I mean, not that I'm better, you know what I'm saying? But I'm saying I'm always, my consciousness is always out there. and I'm never really grounded in all this negativity, which I don't want to be. You got to be, but I don't want to be. I don't know, that somehow that was important. But I started reading the Dalai Lama. I took a religion course. I didn't have to, but I wanted to. I took a religion course. I got deep into different religions and beliefs before the alien stuff. Started learning about Egypt, like I said, the Dalai Lama, spiritual practices, and I had no idea why. Part of it was I started having dreams of Egypt, because I used to have just the regular dreams, and now I don't. If I go into the astral, I'm with aliens, I'm on a ship, I'm in another reality of Earth, or like, you know, I had one recently of being, I was a gray on a ship with grays going to another version of Earth. Or, you know, I'll have images of, like, I remember the smell of being in space in the universe, being right outside Earth, almost like an astronaut floating, looking at Earth, you know. I get that all the time, and the scent that it comes with is amazing. It's almost like, I don't know, I get stardust. That's just what I get. It's a beautiful thing, so thank you, whoever gives that to me. It's my Andromedan side, I know that, though, for sure. So in 2012, I started having dreams about Egyptian stuff, and that's really what started boosting my curiosity. And I started going down that path. I would wake up, and for some reason, I'm like, I have to study this. I have to know this. In things of mythology, like I said, the Egyptian stuff, the pharaohs, their esoteric belief systems, Osiris, the gods, you know, ancient aliens. I was the biggest Ancient Aliens fan, and then once I woke in, I was like, yeah, this is really not gonna do any good. But I mean, it got me to where I needed to be. It got me going, so I'm grateful and I'm thankful for that. So I just became obsessed with the old world, with ancient things, and like I said, I would wake up feeling like every night I would go to sleep, and then the beings would put something in me, you know, like they would just either heighten my vibration, my sensitivity, or they would just put me on that path, you know. I would wake up thinking, this is what I have to do, this is what I have to learn. So then I would just spend all my time and energy researching stuff. And then I got into a relationship in 2013 or 2014. And because I was in a relationship, and me and Stephanie lived together, so, you know, I kind of just threw all that stuff out every like couple weeks when I had time to myself. And then for some reason I didn't tell her. I felt like it wouldn't do good. I would still research that stuff. You know, I'd get on the computer and I'd spend 5 hours just reading. Complete isolation. And that's one thing I will say, isolation. Yeah, it can be very bad, but when you're in solitude, and all philosophers, spiritual people, alchemists, we all go through the phases of solitude and isolation, because that is when you start to really pick up on yourself in things. If you don't get out of the manipulations and always working, always being busy, always doing that, you're not going to have time to really raise your consciousness and bring the stuff in. So that's what I was saying in the beginning. You know, it's like, I know people, this may rub you the wrong way, a lot of people, but it's like, work as little as you can. All these 3D things that are weighing you down, you can cut it off. You can do it, because I did it. And that's why, you know, I basically had a very, very strong ascension process. Because like I said, it was literally like, I'm going to do this, or I'm not going to be here. Because I almost started having, you know, like what I should get into this a couple minutes from now. But, you know, I almost had like a hatred for the 3D. And Jim from the workshop, Jim actually helped me deal with that, and he helped me come to terms with it, you know. He was like, you were on a descension path. Basically, you were being manipulated, and you've always been connected, and you're always channeling. But because you were not aware, you were destroying yourself, and you were going down like the negative rabbit hole. Basically, you were going down to a place where you weren't gonna make it. But because of spirit, because of God, because of the beings, and because of whatever my place is, I got through it. So now I'm almost like I ran to the other side and I'm never going back. And all the negativity I got, I'm going to use for the advantage of the white light, of the positivity. I don't know why Christ consciousness is coming to me right now. In my first reading from Ivan, which I'll get into, that was one of the things. He said, you don't realize it, but you have the beard and the really long hair and all that. He was like, you took on almost like a form of Yeshua, of Jesus, because he's one of your role models and you're very connected to him in a way. That Christ consciousness is like one of the reasons I'm here. I just get it. And that's why alchemy to me is so important, because alchemy opened me up to all this stuff. And it showed me just like, what Jesus was here to do. We have all that stuff inside. So when you separate and put him on a pedestal, that's where you go wrong. All those healing abilities and the Reiki and the discernment he used. I mean, look at all of us. Look at all these spiritual people who, not like the mind readers, but you can tell what someone needs to hear. You can look inside them. You can heal them energy-wise. You can do that. You can cure sicknesses. We are literally starting to become what those teachings were all about. Anyways, so after Stephanie and I broke up, that was when I basically, it was time, I didn't realize it, but it was time for me to take another step. So, and I've talked about this before, in like 2015, I believe it was, I was living by myself again. And I really started the isolation process, and I for some reason, something told me, study Freemasonry, study the other side, dive into this satanic occult rituals, MK Ultra, Monarch Project, Philadelphia Experiment, mind manipulation, different dimensions, Then I got into alchemy eventually. But basically, I started looking into the negativity, which I should have, done that, and the positivity. Because what I did was I dove, and I'm talking like a half a year, 6-month process maybe, of every day, 5 to 6 hours a day, studying the occult, studying Freemasonry, the Third Reich, Nazis, the Tall Whites, Nordics, insectoids, reptilians, Greys, asking for beings to come, even though for years they didn't come, and now they won't shut up. It's kind of I'm trying to bring some humor into this, because I know I'm kind of diving into heavy stuff, even though to me it's not heavy, because it's my life. So whatever. And then that's when I finally, and some weird things were happening. Like, I remember one night I was up all night watching Bohemian Grove. This is when I believed Alex Jones was a positive person. I was watching him with the Bohemian Grove and David Icke and all those people. And a lot of people do start out with them. And I have to give them credit, because without them, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. I wouldn't see that they were doing the fear-mongering. They give you the problems, but they don't give you the solutions, I didn't see that. But some weird things would happen, like doors would open in my house. I'd had weird, random, I heard a really loud noise one night, and I woke up. And for some reason, I woke up in a pool of sweat, and I felt very negative, like something was watching me. And I woke up, and my attic door, it was like the it reminds me of The Exorcist. Remember when, like, the attic door is, like, open and you hear the loud bangs and sounds? That was going on with me, and I'm like, holy shit, like, I don't know how to deal with this. So, diving into the negativity without knowing how to protect myself, yeah, that was pretty bad. That was not smart. Let's see. And then I moved to where I am now in Aurora. I moved from that was in Glendale Heights, because I went from Aurora. I was born in McHenry, Illinois, which sucks. So McHenry to Aurora to Wheaton, and then I moved to Bloomingdale for a year. Had my first apartment experience. Stephanie and I we started going out and when I lived with my parents at the Wheaton house, and then we got our own apartment in Bloomingdale, and then we had our own townhome in Glendale Heights. And then after Glendale Heights, after we broke up, I moved back to Aurora, because Aurora is my home. And, you know, it's like when you grow up in the ghetto and then you move to a very yuppie rich place, you kind of miss that, you know? It's like you have your certain hometown, and Aurora's my hometown. Does it suck? Yeah, but it's my hometown. So I decided to move back to Aurora, but I decided to move to like borderline Naperville. So I'm basically at the nicest, most expensive area of Aurora to live in. So I mean, it is a little better. Let's see. Because I started getting into the occult, because I started getting into all that stuff, I decided it was time to learn about spirituality, learn about the positivity. Oh, and this is one thing too. So I haven't gone to church in, I don't know, it's probably been like 7 or 8 years. I mean, I'm just not going to do that anymore. But when I was in church and I was younger, yeah, this is coming back to me. I was an altar boy for sure. But a lot of times, like when I wasn't working there, you know, when I wasn't an altar boy, when I would just go to church on Sundays, there was this one priest, and I know not all priests are bad. I do know, yeah, the Catholics, all the dark stuff they do, it's real, but not everyone's bad. And there was this really, really cool priest. I think his name was Father Lou, like Lou, Father Lou, I think. And he was a really good guy. He was cool as hell. And he would even swear and just stuff in the background. But anyways, every time he was up there, I kept seeing his aura. And aura is one thing that I've just been able to see forever. And I was like, this is weird. And then it started connecting me to the pictures of Jesus and, okay, basically enlightened beings back in the day, because they didn't know how to picture it, you know. So in a metaphor, in art, you know, they have the sun behind their head, like the halo of light. And I saw that on the priest while I was in church, and I'm like, whoa, like I'm seeing some shit. Like this is crazy. So that, I don't know why that just came to mind. So I moved back here, and then that's when I started my true awakening of extraterrestrial contact, the different dimensions, third eye, discernment, the path I'm at now, or the path I'm on now. So my mom just moved out of Wheaton. She moved 10 minutes away from here. So I'm like, great, now my mom's gonna be coming over here all the time. But anyway, she lived in Wheaton up until, you know, like about a month ago. And there's a place called Quest in Wheaton, and there's a place called the Theosophical Society in Wheaton, and they're very well known. It's actually very well known, popular society place. And they just do spiritual work and Reiki and massages, and they publish a lot of spiritual and religious books. But there's a place that they're linked to called Quest. And Quest is very expensive, but it's a really cool place. They sell crystals. They sell esoteric, like books on esoteric beliefs, hand pans, spiritual decorations, sound bowls. They do, like I said, therapy appointments, you know, clearings, all that stuff. So something was drawing me to go there. So I went to Quest, and there was an alchemy book, which, you know what, I'm going to go get it. So give me literally like 5 seconds. I'm going right over here. So I found this book, and I don't know why, but excuse me, before I got into alchemy, I kind of just felt like I was a philosopher. I've noticed, you know, like a lot of people are philosophers, masters, artists, blah blah blah. If you listen to Cryon talks about that. There's a really good video about Cryon actually talking about old souls, and he says that each one of these like these thinkers, artists, philosophers, whatever, they're all in an old soul. But I resonate with the mastery and the philosophy the most. I'm a thinker, you know. So that led me to want to study old beliefs and systems, and I kind of threw out religion, and I was like, you know, I'm going to have this inner peace mentality to life. And I thought I was going to become a Buddhist. I thought I was going to become a monk. I actually thought about going to Tibet and being a monk and doing that. And I know someone who actually went that route, and he said, don't. He was like, don't do it. And actually, it brought him a lot of suffering. So I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that. But anyways, so when I was at Quest, and again, you know, before you awaken, like now I see when beings and things are leading me on a path. Now I'm aware because I have that awareness. But back then I had no awareness, so I didn't know things were leading me, you know. But this book, and I read this book probably 3 times a year. And after, you know, a half a year goes by or whatever, and I learn a lot, I go back and read it, and it's almost like I'm learning different things every time I read it. So I know you don't want to take a spiritual belief system and make it like a religion, because that's exactly what they want. As long as you have a belief system and you slave away, that's what the negative energies, a lot of like the Orions, reptilians, whatever, Archons, they want you to get into that trap, to fall into a category. But this isn't the same thing, if that makes sense. And I'm very aware of that. But I found this book, The Emerald Tablet, Alchemy for Personal Transformation by, I'm just reading it off here, Dennis William Hawk. And this book is magical. But again, I mean, I was John Dee in a past life. I'm very strong into magic and things. So another reason why this helped me was, and I encourage some of you guys to do this, is I would take a smudge like my sage, you know. You know how like people bless rooms and they do clearings and all that. I blessed this book before I started reading it. I literally would just open it up and light the sage and have it go through the pages, and I would ask for God, because I didn't know about the aliens yet contacting me. I'd ask for God and spirits and whoever was around me to help me bless this book, so whatever knowledge that I needed to learn would come to me. And holy crap, man, like every 2 pages I had to stop, and this is, I think it's a 400-page book. Yeah, it's like 434 pages. So every 2 pages, and I read that book in like a matter of like days, because I am not a reader. No, well, nowadays I am, but I love knowledge now. I love learning, but you know, I was never a reader. I always hated reading. But I mean, I would, you know, read 60 to 70 pages at a time and not even notice it, because I was so connecting to it. But I was reading this book, and every 2 pages I'd have to stop because something would happen in my head. It's like I would read it, and then there was a synchronicity, kind of like when you're like, aha, you know, like the light bulb eureka, you know. So that was happening to me every 2 pages, and I'm very connected. Like I stop and just look sometimes and say, oh, like I see this, thank you. You know, like I talk to what I can't see. And I know a lot of you guys do that too, so I'm not worried about looking weird here. But every 2 pages I would stop, because it was like something is communicating to me that like I had this in a past life. For some reason, alchemy, I was just meant to know and connect to. And then once I started practicing alchemy, deep reflections of myself, completely cut myself off from society, because I really started hating 3D. I had a hatred, not for people, but, and I still do in a way, for like I hate money. I want to do as little as I can on the money side. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm so spiritually driven, I know that truth. Like I try to work as little as I can so I have time to do this stuff, because this is what's important to me. You know, and that's why it's hard for me to keep a job. It's not that I get fired, it's I quit all the time, because I'm not going to deal with the crap in it. And I feel the vibrations, and I'm just being like a slave at this low-level job, and they're treating me like garbage, and everyone's like, oh, it's a job, you have to have it, you got to deal with these things. I'm too stubborn and too spiritually driven that I'm not going to deal with them, you know? So I'm a job hopper, because I'm never... The only job I liked that I absolutely loved was 2 Men in a Truck, which I'm thinking about maybe going back to doing. Because I absolutely love moving. I'm very physical. I'm all about exercise, you know, being a beast, all that kind of stuff. Anyways, so I kept feeling like something was pointing me to read this and learn this. And so as I started reading and using alchemy and learning meditation, and meditation is key. A lot of people are like, oh, it is, but it isn't. And I'm not trying to be a dick here, but... it's because you're not truly meditating. Because when I first started, and just like everything, you're gonna suck at it. Like right now, I think I'm a shitty channeler. Yeah, I'm new to it. It's been a couple months, so it's whatever. But I think I suck at it. I really don't think I'm a good channeler. But I'm getting there. I'm getting there, you know? I also put it on a pedestal. I thought it was something big and amazing that... I mean, it is, but it's not. Anyways, so as I started doing deep meditations, I started connecting. I didn't know how to meditate. I just did whatever way I could. I found my path. I found my structure into how to meditate and how to do deep reflections. And this is the thing. I'm very honest because of alchemy, and I'm for sure gonna make a video about alchemy, because I guarantee some of you guys practice this, your life is gonna change. Absolutely. And I do believe Arcturians had a say with alchemy. And I read that somewhere, that Arcturians actually helped create alchemy to basically accelerate the spiritual process for people. People who, and wow, that just came to me. Me, for example, you know, I needed to excel and accelerate my spiritual path so I can do what I'm doing right now. And without this, I probably wouldn't be there. So wow, you learn something every minute, I swear to God. So I started connecting to aliens, and basically I've always been obsessed with space. But I started having visions of being on planets after I started connecting to alchemy and working on myself. I started having visions of being on the moon, being on Mars, Atlantean times. I started seeing other beings. I remember being on a ship, and I'll probably make a video on all my dreams one day, all my visions, but I remember being on a ship, and there were literally, like, you couldn't even count how many. It was like for 1,000 miles down, like there were 1 million ships, and we were all moving in unison, like through space. And I remember going through like portals and looking at something in the sky, and then being on another planet. And I remember being in a ship in an all-white room on a very dark planet and seeing like a star or something, like it's gonna hit that planet. And it was silent, but as soon as it hit, everything started moving, and like the ship or whatever I was in just flew off into space. Very hard to articulate and express in English, you know, because I know how to think multidimensional now, so it's very hard sometimes. Linear thinking is a bitch, man. I'm sorry to swear, but I like to bring this stuff down to a very human perspective, because if you can't connect to other humans to awaken them, what's the point, you know? So I started having those, and then I had a dream, and this is where like the real alien stuff's gonna kick in. So I had a dream, and it was all these symbols, all these green symbols, you know, and it was light language, and I didn't know it. So it was just swirls and like DNA codes, you know, and I saw it, and then the next day after I saw it, I felt different. So I was like, okay, I have to go to somebody, and I didn't even know what channeling was at the time. I was like, I have to go to somebody that can give me some answers. And then And then I ended up finding who's basically like my best friend now, Ivan Teller. So I found Ivan, and then I found Jim and them eventually, Jim and Max, Dr. Max, eventually. And so I messaged Ivan, and I'm like, hey, I'm learning about something called star seeds. I had this vision with these symbols. I'm having visions of aliens. I could be wrong here. Like, can you just tell me something? And I had the mentality of, you know what? I'm only paying like $5 for a question. So if this guy is crazy and wrong, which he's not, he's spot on. I was like, if he's crazy and wrong, then I'm only losing $5, whatever, and I'll find someone who's gonna help me. So Ivan ended up, yeah, you know what? Let me see. Because I want to be very personal with you guys. Let me see if I can find it. And if there's a way I can post these conversations with him up, I totally will. I just don't know how to do that. I've actually tried sending these to people before, and it said it just wouldn't send. So I'm not sure.
Well, this is Ivan. I'm here to answer your questions. Okay, I'm about to read this.
This is fun.
So bear with me. My biggest question right now is to find out what star seed origin I have. I keep having dreams that I have another life in space, and only get these visions where I am. Yeah, that's your other aspect. Is it a continued dream? It is a continued dream. I know it's not a dream. Yeah, it's not. It's your other aspect. I have a connection to Mars, Egypt, and I have visions of places I think are to be Atlantean. Yes, I use crystals and meditate and can see the prana in the air and sometimes see energy. I have always felt different, and I have known this for a while. I believe I have purpose to do good and help others, but I'm lost on my journey. One moment.
Alright, so I'm not going to play it all, obviously. I'm here to talk. I should probably ask him if it's okay that I play that too. But anyways, so he says, the Arcturians gave me that light language activation, basically, when I started seeing it. It was Arcturians. And this was a whole year process. Well, actually, no, like more than a year. I found this out when I went to the Hukalo workshop. Jim, basically, I didn't know that I was mainly reptilian. I didn't know I had reptilian connections. And before I went to the workshop, I thought every time I saw a reptilian, it was a bad thing. So I was actually bashing my family. And so now I'm more whole because I embrace them. But he says you're mainly Arcturian. They're who you're gonna go through with this life. Basically, this life is very Arcturian. And they are the ones that I have connections with the most, with like the visuals and all that stuff, constantly. I'm talking every 10 minutes I get an image of an Arcturian. And I'll be in meditation and I'll see them working on me all the time. Like, I'll see almost like a robotic head open up, like I open up and then they work on me. And I'm getting blue and pink energies like jolting through my brain, and they're just spiritually enhancing me, basically. But he says that you have the Arcturians, but he says that you're mainly Andromedan, and that's where the reptilian comes from. And I had no idea for a whole year and a half, and he was like, yeah, this is not for me to know. The Arcturians are very personal and protective of me for some reason. A lot of times I'll ask Ivan something, and he's like, yeah, because your personal connection, they don't want known. It's up for you and only you to discover. So I know I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to try to wrap this up. So I learned about all this stuff. I learned about starseeds, learned about aliens, and I went through a transformation that was too strong at first. And it ended up, I almost had a panic attack, like a mental breakdown. The Arcturians, for a period of about like 2 months maybe, it was every day I was getting downloads, images, dreams, constantly being on ships, being in healing chambers, talking to them, seeing them. They were showing me more alchemy stuff. And I still get this sometimes. I know this is weird, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Sometimes I'll go and I'll go in my bathroom and I'll look in the mirror, and even though I see myself, I see an alien inside me, and it looks like an Arcturian. And so basically, Ivan says they realized they kind of messed up because they were influencing, enhancing me at such a rapid pace for 2 months that he still says, you almost were gone, like your human side, like you jumped from being basically in human form to like becoming your alien self way too fast. And he said there was a point of maybe no return. Like he was like, I don't know. So that's part of it. You got to deal with a lot of negative, scary things when you're transforming. But when you realize that the universe and life is like a comic book and everything that you can think of is real, it's crazy, it's awesome. But to always bring the white light with that. The fact now that I know that there are other planets with other beings, other dimensions, probably multiple universes, all this stuff, seeing how small humanity is compared to the whole, it just shows how big and great God is. And that's why I don't look at God in a human form or a physical form. To me, God is the nature of all things. When I think of God, I get a certain image in my head. And it's almost like when you look at a galaxy, like the Milky Way or whatever, like that big, circle of spinning beautiful energy. To me, that's God. But that formation of everything in a whole, just the nature of all things, how everything is connected, and obviously in our hearts, because the heart is the God source. But to me, that's God. So, even though things are crazy, it makes the positivity, it strengthens it, and it makes it bigger, So I started connecting with Arcturians. They became like my best friends. They still are my favorite aliens. I'm very biased with them. And forever, I thought, once Ivan said that I'm a channeler, and I had to open it up, I thought I'm just going to channel the Arcturians. Like, I thought of, oh yeah, I'll make a YouTube channel, and I'll name it, like, the Arcturian Whisperer, which there's so many alien Whisperer people out there. But, I thought it was going to be just them, because I didn't realize how big things are. I didn't think so broadly, because that's one thing that I can give people advice for, or just give you advice. The more broad you think, the more open you think, the easier it is to get things. Humans are the absolute masters of... I have... I always mess this word up. Compartmentalizing. So humans, we compartmentalize a lot of things that we shouldn't. So if you decompartmentalize, if that's a word, in your thoughts, it's easier to understand this stuff. So I didn't realize that, I've lived lives as all different types of beings, I thought it was mainly just Arcturians. Because I was like, oh yeah, I label myself an Arcturian, even though it's like, I've been everything. And then so the Arcturians constantly were working on my third eye. I would look up Arcturian third eye activation meditations. I literally became a metaphysics guru in a way, just understanding metaphysics, understanding science, the nature, spiritual dimensions, all the information I can find, because I was in my hermit stage, for like 2 years, no friends, no activities, no going out, no partying, every day, all day, meditation, reading books, and reading on the internet, and informing myself. And that's why I say, if you want to get here, you really gotta do the work, man. Like, I had to basically kill off my human aspect in order to gain this stuff. And so now I'm slowly coming back out. I'm slowly connecting to people. I'm slowly doing this. And I was at a point, even a couple weeks ago when I started my class, where I felt awkward because I was around people. Or I'll go to the grocery store and there's so many people and I have like a panic attack because I don't know how to deal with all the energies and all the people because I'm so used to being alone now. And I was an extrovert my whole life. I couldn't stay inside. I was the wild child, always partying, always with people. I would freak out if I had to stay home one night. And now I don't go out. I don't do anything. So I went completely from being an ENFJ to now I'm an INFJ. And I learned that INFJs are a lot of times spiritual people and spiritual leaders, which I'm starting to build my confidence up. And without ego, that's a big thing too with alchemy, is that ego, you learn to destroy the ego. Ego can be good. It's there to protect you. But if you know how to work with ego, that's the only way you're gonna really find that out. So alchemy is all about deep reflections. I'm very good at being in meditation and taking all the things I don't want to think about, all the pains in my life, bring them all out. Bring the ugly side of myself, the ugly side of everything. Bring it all out, calm it, heal it, do breathing exercises, breathing activities.